today we are playing Demon Hunter. Now Demon Hunter is probably the ult I have the most experience on. I played it at a pretty high level and somewhat enjoy the class. So what are the big changes coming to the spec in DF? First off, it is getting an AoE fear, which is insane. The spec now has 2 stuns, an in-cap, and a fear. That's a pretty significant amount of CC, for also generally being one of the highest damaging specs in the game. Other than that, they also gain access to Fart of the Flame and also the Hunt at the same exact time, which is a significant amount of burst. They can also easily spec into a ranged slow, which also ends up being AoE if you have the AoE throw glaive talent. And they have a ton of different ways of dealing damage now. You can still go the traditional Blade Dance, Chaos Strike build, but you can also go a Sigil of the Flame build, where you pair that with Immolation Aura and just burn them down all game. Or you can go with more of an I-beam related build, which is also a ton of damage. Or you can just say fuck it and go for the biggest burst damage ever and go into any means necessary, which makes it so that your hunt is affected by your mastery, which is kind of disgusting. The spec just has so many options now, it's insane. Even if they nerf one of the other ones could still be just as broken. So far, this is one of the best designed talent trees in Dragonflight. They did a really good job on it. Now, for the video, I'm mainly playing the traditional Blade Dance Chaos Strike build, but even this build has a ton of burst with the Hunt and Fodder to the Flames. I do try out the crazy one-shot build in one game, but it's just really dumb and not as good overall, so I just went back to the normal build at the very end. So one other thing though, I recorded all these games a couple weeks ago, and since DH was nerfed a bit since then, some of the damage numbers and parts of the spec won't be completely accurate to how they are right now. That's just something that's going to end up happening in the series since it's beta. There's a ton of changes that happens constantly. Sometimes I don't get the video out on time. There's a bunch of changes that happens constantly, so it's can't be the perfect reference for how the spec is working, but it's just still a good idea on how it's going to end up working in Dragonflight. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's get into the game. So to start game 1, I didn't realize tier sets were added to the game yet, so I didn't have them yet. It's kind of fine though, because DH's tier isn't super important. It does give you 8% increased damage and more crits on your Chaos Strike and Blade Dance, but it's not the most game-breaking thing like some of them in retail right now. Also, I'm super excited because they actually finally added ranked solo queue, so I'm actually playing ranked right now. For this first game, I cut out a couple of the games because it's kind of boring, but it goes super well. I'm also not doing as much damage as I could be because for most of this, I was kind of stubborn because they have some really broken enchants, specifically one that proc hits for like 100k, and I just wasn't using it because I thought it was really dumb. I eventually caved, and all my other games I have all the enchants and everything, just because, you know, if you're trying to play rank, you might as well have everything that makes you as strong as possible. But yeah, so 2 games in right now. I skipped the next 2 because they were kind of long and boring, so I didn't really want to throw them in. But yeah, DH is super crazy with the Hunt and also having Fart of the Week. You just have so much damage, and you also have so much CC with the silence and all your stuns and your in-cap. It's just really broken. So yeah, I'm just going to start talking about what's going on right now. I go for meta, go for the I-beam for even more. Just keeping up with this guy, they end up popping the PS on this guy. I'm playing the glaives toss thing right now. It's not the best, but I was just messing around with a lot of things at the start. Ooh, my server almost just dies there, which would have been tragic. I go for the Hunt now that his PS is down, get some really big damage out. I get a demon proc. I'm just absolutely pumping this guy, proc the demon, pick up the damage buff, and just start doing the most damage to this guy. Get my I-beam off, and then he just goes down. And now we're on to the last round. Right now I've got 5 wins, so it'd be really cool if I can get a 6-0 in my first game, right? Really cool. Dragons are like really weird to play against. They have so much mobility and a lot of weird disruption that kind of feels awkward. I'm not really sure how to play against them quite yet. Like on other melees that don't have as much mobility, it's unbearable and impossible to hit them. But yeah, we forced out the cocoon, got some really big CC on the Mistweaver, doing a quick swap onto the Hunter. They end up kicking my... I didn't actually even know that dragons had a kick. That's crazy. Yeah, just back onto the dragon, just doing some big damage, and then I get the kill, and we end up going 6-0 for the first game. So game 2 is pretty scary. They have some really scary specs in this game with Enhance and Windwalker, both of them do insane burst. Mage isn't as scary, but yeah, opening up onto this Shaman right now, just doing really big damage. Go for the incap onto the healer, go for the sphere off of the incap, doing some really big damage, going for the hunt, absolutely pummeling this guy, and then he goes down. Next up, we're against the Windwalker, Mistweaver, Enhancement Shaman. This is the scariest combo possible. These two specs are insane. They just do so much damage. I'm going on to the Enhancement Shaman right now, because a lot of times when you go them, they kind of have to use some of their stacks on healing rather than just doing the most damage ever. I see the Ascendant, so I go for the big stun, and then I use the Hunt to root him so he can't connect onto my healer. My mage is trying to peel him as well. I drop the Dark trying to help my healer, but he just immediately runs out because I don't have my macro that makes it so I yell that the Dark is down. I should probably add that, but I don't do it for any of these games because I'm kind of a troll. Last on me, doing some big damage to the Shaman. We end up forcing the bubble, switching back onto the Mistweaver, doing some really big damage on the stun. He has no bubble anymore, so he's taking a lot of damage. He has no real way to burst heal out of it. I meta after him, but I do the trollest I-beam ever, and I just don't do anything to him. He just escapes on the other side of the wall. Back onto the monk. My mage is absolutely dying. Thankfully, he actually uses his ice block and doesn't just flop. Doing some really big damage to the monk. I'm just hitting through karma because the mage already ice blocked, so it shouldn't do anything. It should just be a useless ability at this point, I think. Shaman's low, monk's low. Do a big stun, swap onto the monk, and while I'm trying to kill the monk, the shaman dies. Next, against the Windwalker mage, gonna go the Windwalker this game because I kind of just like to go the super big damage specs to kind of prevent them from just doing whatever they want. And Shaman just one-shots him. Once again, against the Enhanced Windwalker. As you saw, Shamans are disgusting, you know. Still hasn't been nerfed even to this day. It's kind of crazy. I have a ton of damage going out right now. I got my demon proc really early on, just doing the most cleave ever. Almost get one-shotted, but end up disengaging back and then dropping the Nether Ward. They just keep running at me for some reason, so I'm full top, start doing some big damage, go for the hunt, doing some really big damage to the Shaman, and then my healer just doesn't even realize he's getting hit and dies. Now we're on to round 4, onto the Shaman once again. I just try to go the Shaman as much as possible just because I like to, it kind of makes me feel like I'm shedding their damage a bit, because if they want to heal, they end up using their instant LE Blast procs. And also it's kind of just scary for them. And then the Windwalker one-shots them. Ha, that's karma, right? Now we're against the Windwalker mage, and I have the Ellie and the Disc Priest going for a big double stun on both of the monks. The healer runs away, so I swap onto the Windwalker. Kind of same premise as last time. I want to try to hit him and prevent as much damage as possible. I triggered out of the leg sweep, do some really big damage to him with the hunt, but I end up getting stuck away. I'm trying to do some weird stuff to the healer, trying to go for the incap into the silence, but then my healer just dies in the process. So as you can see, my MMR is actually pretty good after one game. I'm already over 2k MMR, which is insane. The only problem with this is it makes my queues really long to get, man. I'm waiting like almost an hour to get a game because there's not enough people queuing at high MMR. So I had to kind of, you know, queue for ranked and unranked at the same time just so I could get games in a reasonable amount of time. So some of these games are unranked. This one that we're playing right now is unranked, but it doesn't really matter though, because we're playing against Zev, who is the Feral, not Insanity. That's what his Feral's name is, and I'm pretty sure that's him. I don't think anyone would really copy Zev. He's not the most highly known player. But yeah, so you can get some really good games even in the normals. So yeah, going on to the Shaman, you know, I talked about why I like to go Shamans. Just doing some really big damage, get a stun on the healer. I try to swap onto him while my Feral goes for the Cyclone, which is kind of annoying to me, but it's totally fine. We're getting some good cleave. So I'm back to the healer because he fully hotted the enhancement shaman, and he's absolutely taking it, and he goes down. Next game, we're against Zev, which is going to make it a bit harder because he's, you know, really good at Feral. Also, Feral is insane right now. It does so much damage if you're playing the right build. I'm not sure if he is, but he probably is. Like, look how much damage I'm taking just to bleeds in the opener. I have to pop so many buttons just to not die. And he swaps onto my shaman. My shaman's also getting absolutely tracked. I'm just trying to do as much damage as possible, CCing the healer. This dragon's just, you know, doing dragon things, and it's kind of hard to figure out what they're doing. I'm just trying to do as much damage to them as possible. I still don't know what the dragons do at this point. I do now, but at the time of this game I really didn't, so I wasn't really sure exactly what their big damage buttons were. Also, at the time of this, dragons were slightly overtuned also. They had some of their buttons doing way more damage than they're supposed to be doing. But that root that they have is really annoying sometimes. Sometimes it just never breaks, and it's an 8-second root, and also a lot of certain abilities just don't get you out of it. But yeah, just doing big damage. Back onto the dragon. I just almost get one-shotted again. Just kind of running him down as much as possible. I probably should swap to the feral or something else while I'm chasing this guy, because running at him doesn't really seem to be working out too well. And I'm getting absolutely shredded by the two of them. I run away, pop dart, trying to not die. Get rid of my LUA error. I always forget to press the macro whenever I log in, especially with how long my queues are. I just don't remember about it in between them. But going on to a big swap onto the rest of the Druid, doing some really big damage to him. He's getting absolutely shredded. I'm kind of surprised that something hasn't just randomly died because of an enhancement shaman on my team, and meanwhile my healer is getting trained and swapped, and we end up losing that round. Next round, we're against the enhanced shaman feral. This is terrifying, man. These are the two scariest specs ever. Feral just does incredibly consistent damage, and enhancement shaman can just one-shot you. It's really scary. So yeah, I'm gonna go for a big swap onto the healer, go for the meta into the stun, into the I-beam. He's doing some really big damage, get the hunt off. He's absolutely taking it, doing some really big damage right now. Zev is just sitting there off healing, which is kind of annoying, so I swap onto him. Thruster has kind of gotten away. I'm kind of just stuck here in Typhoon, can't really connect to anything, so I'm just kind of hitting whatever I can now. Swapping onto the Shaman, I saw that he used his wall a bit ago, so he doesn't really have much to save himself. I get a Demon proc here, which is pretty OP. You know, I don't know how I feel about the Demon procs. They're really, really broken when they happen, but when they don't happen, it just feels so troll. I've just always been really questionable about them, but they're kind of better now because you can get them a lot easier and you're not using an entire covenant just to get them now. Doing some really big damage to this druid. He's trying to juke me around, but I'm a demon hunter, man. You can't really kite me like that. He ends up NSing himself and doing a ton of healing, so I swap onto the feral druid. I go back onto the rest of druid, but he's just away from me. I can't get up to him, so I swap onto the Ellie enhancement shaman with my teammate. I'm getting absolutely shredded, so I try to go for the dark to try to save myself. My healer gets cloned. I think I'm just absolutely doomed. My dragon is also getting shredded, and then I go down. Next game, I have the enhanced shaman on my team, so we're going to have some really big damage. I decide to go for the dragon this game. Zev ults off to me, and I'm getting absolutely shredded. I'm down to 10% HP, and I have to nether walk. I cancel it, start doing some really big damage, get a double stun on the two of them, go on to the rest of druid. Meanwhile, the dragon is getting shredded also. They're both just 1 HP, so I just look over the dragon and hunt him, and then he doesn't die. But now he does, yeah. Into round 5, once again, I have Zev on my team. So this one is going to be a lot easier than all the other ones because he's way better than everyone else in this lobby. And we just instantly win in the opener. That's how it is. Alright, in this last round, we are against the Feral Enhance, the super scary combo, opening up onto the Enhancement Shaman, do some really big damage. He ends up using his static cling totem thing. He's just taking a ton of damage though, and ends up just dying instantly in the opener. Yeah, and that is 4 wins. Game 4. All I can say is this evoker is super troll in this game, but not as troll as me, as I am getting absolutely fucked. I get stunned, I'm out of line, I don't press any buttons, and I just die. I am so fucking bad. Next game, we're against the Demo Windwalker. I decide to go onto this monk here, do some pretty good damage to each other. I get stunned by the Demon Lock, and I'm really scared because the Monk might just one-shot me, but I get stealthed by the Mage, so it ends up stopping a bit of the damage. I stun the Monk, do some really big damage to him. We end up forcing his wall and his Karma, so now I go for some CC onto the Dragon, but he ends up getting out of it, and so I go for the stun onto him, just kind of kiting out the Karma, so I just don't get absolutely shredded by him when he pops his buttons like he is right now. Still kind of kiting him a bit, doing as much damage as I can while also kiting him, getting pumped. I get NS by the healer, which was actually really well timed, honestly. Back onto the Monk though, doing some really big damage, and then he ends up going down. So I ended up hinting it earlier that the Evoker was a bit of a troll, and that's because he ends up losing every single game. This ended up making me think that, maybe in situations like this where you end up going 3-3 and one person, because of one person going 0-6, maybe you shouldn't lose MMR for it. But, you know, Blizzard Entertainment, probably not going to happen. I just think that situations like this, where you have someone who's just way worse than everyone else, and they end up losing every single game because of being worse than everyone else, that you shouldn't be penalized that much for going 3-3 in that game. Because if the match is under your MMR, and you end up going 3-3 because of that, you end up losing MMR and CR a lot of the times, which is kind of weird to me. I don't really know a really good fix for that, but yeah, I'm getting absolutely shredded. You know, I got the Invoker on my team, so things are going to be going too well probably. Demo's going ham. He's got the Tyrant out, and then my Invoker just dies, man. Next up, we're against the Demo Arcane Mage. Once again, they got the Invoker on their team, which means that's probably a free win for us, but this Arcane Mage is doing a ton of damage to me. I try to go and stop his damage, and he ends up just doing exactly that. He goes for the Arcanosphere, so then I incap him off of it into a stun, just trying to peel his burst as much as possible. Now I go for some big damage onto this Evoker, get the Hunt, get the Blade Dance, and he goes down. The last game, oh boy, look who's on my team, the Evoker. So what's going to happen? We're probably going to lose. Mage goes for the DB Sheep on me, but ends up not actually getting the Sheep off for some reason. I go for the stun on the Windwalker, do some really big damage to him here. And he ends up popping his Fort Brew. I don't know why he's casting Crackling JH. I go for the double stun here, but I get leg sweeped on it because the Monk trinkets it. No, it's just fully DR'd. And then the Invoker just gets one-shotted by the Arcane Mage. Very cool. Game 5, we are back into a ranked game. This is kind of the epitome of how bad the MMR system is on the beta, where I personally have over 1900 MMR, and this is a 1400 game. But yeah, you know, it's just how it is. There aren't that many people playing at this point. There's a lot more now, or at least there were before pre-patch came out, but pre-patch is kind of dead again. Yeah, going against a Shadow Priest and Double Dragon, get the Disperse on the Dragon, and then my Enhancement Shaman one-shots the healer. Oh yeah, Enhancement Shamans are still doing that. Isn't that super cool? Also for Game 2 was super long, so I'm just cutting at the very, very end of it, and we end up winning right there, but I almost get one trap with the Shaman there, which is really cool. Yeah, Shaman still isn't balanced. It just doesn't make any sense, man. How is this spec still just a problem? I kill the Sky Fury Totem instantly, stun the Shaman, open on the Shaman, doing some really big damage on the Shaman. My priest gets a fear onto the healer, and we just dies. Yeah, once again, back onto the Shaman. I kill the Static Field Totem because that shit is annoying. I kind of fried and do not kill the Sky Fury until right now. He already threw an LA Blast off with it, but I don't think it really crit. It was just kind of a normal hit. I end up forcing the wall. I hunt into the wall, which is really bad, but the dragon's doing weird dragon things. Waltz on the ground, man. I hate the dragons, and then my dragon just gets one shot with the Shaman. Is this game fun? Yeah, you know, I kind of bitch at the Shaman for playing this spec because it's really, really lame. But yeah, back into the game. I can't really get too angry at him because he's not that good, because he's playing at 1400, you know? I'm just not supposed to be here, and I'm kind of sick of seeing it. He almost goes and one-shots the Shadow Priest here. I'm just kind of hitting the Pally through his wall, you know, just doing some big damage, go for the hunt, and as I hunt, he also LA Blasts and just dies. Isn't Shaman cool? Once again, now we're against the Shaman. Oh boy, who's he gonna one-shot now? This deck is so fun to play against. He drops down the Static Field. He ends up trading out of my stun. I get a Demon proc. He's got a Sky Fury down. He's trying to one-shot me. He doesn't end up one-shotting me. I drop the Blur, and then the Dragon dies. This is kind of what the MMR is. I'm over 1900, and they're all 1400. It's kind of weird that I'm in this game, but as I said, really long queues, kind of just got to get what I get. Now game 6 was really long and damp. Look at the specs, man. It's DH, Demo Lock, Dragon, Shadow Priest with an Archer healer. The games are going to be pretty long, man. So I only have half of them for this game. Going on to the Priest, he's kind of popping off here. Try to stop the Mind Games, and then I kill the Siphon. Swapping onto the Resto Druid, but I don't get one-shotted by the Dragon. Doing some pretty big damage on him. Force out the Barskin and him into Bear. My Warlock is getting absolutely shredded right now. I incap the healer and try to do some damage to the Dragon. Go for the Fear off, get the full Fear. And then I think my guy breaks it, but then he casts a Fear. I don't even know, man. I can't see the trinket, so it's really hard to tell. Doing some really big damage to the Dragon. He does this weird Dragon Wall thing, but it still ends up going down. On to the next game. Looks like this is game 5. Go for the double stun onto both of the casters. Doing some really big damage to the Shadow Priest. Get a Demon proc the Demon, get up my buff. And looking to get some CC onto the healer now. JK, I don't remember this game. Just going for a full on swap onto the healer, stun the Cyclone, go for the Hunt, do some really big damage to this guy, pop my meta, just keep on doing the most damage as I can. I see the Siphon, try to kill it as fast as possible because Siphon is really dangerous to keep up. Going on to the Warlock now because he's getting kind of shredded by my Dragon. Go for the Incap into the Fear onto the Resto Druid, landed perfectly. Swapping back onto the Shadow Priest a bit, kind of trying to. I'm struggling to connect, man. I am so bad at Demon Hunter, but you know, I reconnect and my Dragon just ends up dying. Against the double Priest Dragon, so it could be really scary because double Mind Games is terrifying. I don't know if the disc or the Holy Priest is playing it, but if he is, it is very scary. I end up getting stunned instantly and then I'm just AFK, kind of confused on what's going on. I think my healer just slowed me out of it and I just assumed I was still in it. Kind of playing Ring Around the Rosies with this Shadow Priest here, trying to not get caught out really. Going for some big dam on him. My Druid gets a Cyclone onto the healer, trying to kill the Siphon as fast as possible, popping the meta, and I end up getting Mind Games, doing some really big damage though. Pop my Demon, pumping this Dragon, go for the Hunt, doing some really big damage. The Priest is also dying. I'm not sure if he swapped or if this is just from the Dragon or Cleave. Back onto the Holy Priest, end up killing him. He's in his angel form, but he is completely dead. You know, even though I showed 2 wins and 1 losses, that was my only loss against this team. Maybe I should have showed more of the wins. But you know, kind of like to show off the losses too. But that was an unranked game, so it doesn't matter too much. Alright, game 7. We're against so many more casters. 2 mages and a Shadow Priest. Just casters everywhere, man. I started this game kind of like halfway through it because this round was very long. I kind of just get CC'd, the mage ice blocks, I get stunned, and then I get capped off. And I'm just kind of sitting here while my mage is getting absolutely shit on. Eventually I get out, hop back onto this Shadow Priest, but my mage just dies. Woo! This time we're against the double mage. I go onto the Arcane Mage, knock him out of stealth, kind of wait for my team to group up, and then I go in. I get that double stun, doing some huge damage on this Arcane Mage, absolutely shredding him. I get a Demon proc too, go for the Incap onto the healer, pop the... I don't pop it. Okay, now I pop the Demon. It's doing some really big damage to this mage, but he's actually pumping me super hard right now too. But he's just taking it, you know, force the ice block here, go for the stun onto the healer, do a little swap onto him, absolutely shredding him too. He's trying to run away from me. I meta after him, just can't get away from a Demon Hunter, man. This spec is just so much mobility, and he's just taking it. He has a bark spinning, he's in bear form. I get kicked on my channel. So I'm kind of stuck here. Hit shift, get out instantly, and then the mage dies. Next one against a good old God Comp. Going onto this Arcane Mage here, get the full stun while I also get stunned, go for the double stun out of it. Then we get the sheep onto the Pally. I somehow don't break with the I-beam, which is kind of impressive. The Pally ends up going for the Trinket Sack, so I swap onto the Pally, doing some really big dam. Get the Demon proc, try to propagate from a distance, but it doesn't bounce so much, it's kind of annoying. Doing the most of him, end up forcing his bubble and popping my Demon at the same time. Swapping onto the mage here, he goes for the DB, then he goes for the root. I see that the Pally's out of bubble, so I go for the in cap into the fear on him, and then what is this, man? What? I'm trying to get through, but the ice wall is going through the pillar, which makes it so I can't go over it. It's just this ability's dumb, man. This just doesn't make sense. So I just go back to the Pally, just absolutely start shredding him, and ends up dying. What is ice wall, man? I think they should make it so it doesn't go through other walls, but who knows? As I go onto this mage here, get stunned, get DB'd, they're kind of ramping up, so I in-cap that mage here, go for a swap onto the paladin, get the full stun, doing some really big damage to him, end up forcing his wings out. He ends up kind of saving himself. I get Arcanosphere, which is a ton of damage, so I swap back onto the mage, try to kick that, but end up missing. My priest grips him, but nope, I'm going right back in, just one shot with the hunt. Alright, we're again game 5 against the real version of guard comp with the Druid. Not really like that anymore because Fear and Cyclone are on the same DR. I get stunned and then I get dispelled out, but I don't really realize I get dispelled out. I kind of just don't notice the spells if I'm not actually trying. I get rooted, I reverse the root, go for the double stun onto the mage and their druid, doing some big damage on the druid, but then I get sheeped and my mage is getting absolutely shit on. He gets emptied out and he dies. Next game against God Comp again, haha, doing some really big damage onto this mage. I'm a bit of the ways through this game because this one is also a really long game. You know, I don't want to subject you to these super duper long double caster Druid teams. They're just really not fun to watch. Go get for the triple stun. My mage tries to sheep the druid on it, but I just break it instantly and just keep doing really big damage. My mage ends up getting mind games. I'm getting shit on, so I use my nether walk, kind of just letting the Pally kind of top us off. Swap onto the mage here, doing some really big damage, but now he's fully hotted, so I swap onto the rest of the druid. He also ended up using his Ironbark there. I kick his Cyclone, try and get some damage out, pop my I-beam, get the stun, doing some really big damage here, go for the hunt. He's getting absolutely shredded now. He ends up tranking, but he's really low on the trank, so I kind of just waited out and go for the Fell Rush. Out of that, he gets Hodge, and then he's going to die to the Blade Dance. And that is it for this game. Game 8, we got a DK, we got a balanced druid, and we got another mage. You know, I'm not sure why there's so many mages. I don't think mages are actually that good right now. But who knows? DK is doing his big buttons. He's doing A-bomb, he's gripping me in. He goes for his blind. I was doing his big dragon combo stuff, you know, Frost DK thing, which is doing the most damage ever. This guy's not really doing it too right. He's not doing that much damage. Meanwhile, the rest of the Boomy is getting absolutely shredded. I swap onto him. He ends up Thornsing. I just don't care. I'm just hitting through it. I'm using I-beam. I'm just doing the most damage I can to this guy. Just absolutely shredding him. He goes for the Convoke and ends up dying. Next game, we're against the DK Mage. You know, not the best comp. You know, good old Liberty Cleave hasn't been a thing since, I don't even know, man. It just hasn't been a thing, period. DK's, you know, popping all his stuff, doing some really big damage, completely shit on my Resto Shaman, and we just lose. So next game, going against the Resto Druid, no, Boomy, Mage, Arshaman. The DK's just, you know, trying to one-shot the Resto Shaman again. You know, worked well for him last time, but this time he's actually pressing his buttons, which is not fair. If you can't press buttons on my team, you shouldn't be able to press buttons against me. That's not how it works. Kind of just getting caught up in a punch of CC right now. I go for the in-cap on the mage to try to slow him down. I see that my DK's on the Boomy, and I swap onto him with him. I don't know why I can't remember the name Boomy right now. It's just not coming off the top of my head. I'm just so used to Resto Druids. But yeah, just trying to do some really big damage onto the Druid, and I'm going for the hunt. I probably should have parked my Demon first for the 20% increased damage on it, but yeah, he's just casting Provoke Bear Form and just dies through. Next game, you know, against this DK again, hoping he doesn't one-shot my healer again. That would be great, right? I reverse my healer out of the silence, but then he gets cap totemed and then he just dies, you know? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. He just doesn't trinket, man. It's not my fault. You know, against the DK again, hopefully I just don't get 6-0'd by this man. That would be tragic. Going on the Boomy, doing some really big damage. I see the Tide, want to kill the Tide, but, you know, it's just not worth it at this point. Just too far away. Getting absolutely shit on by Convoke, but end up getting out of it without dying because of Nether Walk. DK is taking a bit of damage, and he's onto my Arshaman super hard. Can you please just leave my Arshamans alone, man? That would be great. But yeah, stuck in the root beam, but the DK is near me, so I'm actually able to hit him a bit. My healer ends up popping the Spirit Link because he's getting absolutely shit on. So I swap onto the Resto Boomy, man. Why can't I remember the Boomy words? You know, I end up getting the Arshaman in the stun also, so I swap onto the Arsham, get a Demon proc. He runs out of his AMS, which is kind of weird to me. End up taking his Healing Stream, go for the Hunt, and he goes down. Now we're on to game 6, or round 6, going onto the Resto Shaman, because I got the DK on my team. This time we're going to one-shot him ourselves, right? Huh? Yeah, come on, do this one-shotting thing, man. Why does it work when you're against me, but not on my team? Do more, please. Either way, you know, it's still absolutely shredding on him. Get the stun, get the silence, and then he dies. You know, it's fine. Now we're on to game 9. As you can see, my build is kind of different. I am trying out the Big Dick one-shot build. It is super unreliable, but sometimes you just hit them for their entire health bar and they cannot react. We're against a warrior and a rogue and a disc priest. You know, not the best combination to one-shot because they have a lot of buttons that they can press just to instantly negate it. But good thing I have an enhanced shaman on my team who just forces out a bunch of their big cooldowns on his own, and going for the big hunt, and he just dies. Into round 2 against some good old Holy Priest Turbo. Trying to go onto the shaman here. I end up getting stuck in the spear. I pop dark insta because I'm just getting absolutely shredded. We end up forcing the wall though, which is pretty good. I try to just go off and I do a ton of damage, but don't quite one-shot him. I had to go because my rogue was just gonna get killed if I didn't. You know, but the only problem is now that I didn't get the one-shot, I'm kind of screwed because I'm not playing a lot of defensive talents. But that's, you know, kind of how it goes with the big one-shot build. Sometimes you get one-shot yourself. Incap that guy, going onto the enhancement shaman, just completely ignoring the Sky Fury and just go for the big one-shot. Once again, against some good old Turbo. I get caught up in the spear, which is very annoying. I hate playing against spearman. It is so annoying, and they can so easily go for the super long spear now. It don't even need a legendary for it. I do my big one shot, but it just doesn't do anything because the shaman just pops wall on a heal, and he's completely fine. I'm getting absolutely shredded. You know, I'm a really good kill target this game because I'm not playing a lot of defensive things. I don't even have Nether Walk, man. It is not looking good, but I'm just trying to go in there, do as much damage as I can. Shaman is just doing the most damage ever. Almost one-shots my rogue right there, but I pop my meta, do some really big damage onto him. He's actually taking quite a bit, which is kind of cool. You know, absolutely shredding him. DH is really cool, right? Haha. Even when I'm playing one-shot build, I still do really big damage. He's getting completely shredded, man. You know, he's super low. I get my essence whatever thing up, and I just one-shot him. Next game against the rogue and the warrior, I get sapped in the opener. Just kind of, you know, stuck here, waiting on the world to change, and my enhancement shaman is one-shotting the priest. Ends up forcing out the guardian spirit. I get stunned, and I decide to just go off. I get a demon proc. I get the demon proc. I get the fear. I hit him for 223k, man. Holy, that's what happened. That's Exodia right there. Breach getting mad at me for playing cheesy one shot. I tell him I'm just doing it for the vid, man. I don't want to do this shit either. It's really troll, you know. But if it goes live, I'm totally gonna be playing this shit. Holy, that's just some content right there, man. Shaman is going off, man. He's just chucking meatballs at me pretty much, but you know, actually Ellie Blast. So I go for my one shot on my own, almost kill him, but not quite. End up forcing out the PS, end up getting his wall also, but he ends up still dying to the warrior damage. And now we're on to the last game. So what I did, or the last one, you know, I finally added enchants and all that jazz to my gear. I'm playing the normal build this time, but I did add the essence strike thing. I don't even know what this build is named, man. It just does a lot of damage, and it also makes it so that your chaos strikes and blade dance do even more damage, which is just a plus. So yeah, I have the super cheesy frozen something enchants that can proc for 100k, and Demon Hunter procs it really consistently just because of how often you're pressing stuff. But yeah, I'm getting absolutely shredded right now. It's actually kind of crazy. Going onto this guy, and then he just dies. This time I am against the priest and the DK. I thought the priest was really scary, so I decided to try and go him as much as I can this game. Ends up dropping the Siphene on me, kill it as fast as I can. Now I get to do the PvE raid mechanics, but am forced to fail it because of the lasso. I get mind games, so I end up popping my other walk and run back to my healer, get healed. I pop my big damage onto the Shadow Priest, kill the Tide, proc my demon real quick so I can get the damage buff. Back onto the Shadow Priest, doing just as much damage as I can, trying to go for some CC onto the healer, go for the in cap into the fear, back to doing some big damage on the Shadow Priest. Probably should stun him right now, but I'm just not. Pop the Metamorphosis for the big dam, go for the stun here. He just gets dispelled out. No, Dragonflight side actually. I pop my demon, get my buff, doing some big damage. JK, no resources. Kill the Siphene as fast as I can. Back onto the Shadow Priest with the DK, grips me away for a second. Get stunned, get the stun, then I get hexed by the Resto Shaman, and I'm kind of just stuck here. Goes for the mind games, does a bit of damage to my Warlock, but I'm just, I'm not really doing anything this game. It feels like this Shadow Priest is just immortal and not taking any damage at all. Maybe Shadow Priest is not the kill target. I've gotten so many demon procs and it just has not mattered this game. Go for the in cap onto the healer, pop my demon to get the damage buff, and I swap, I go back onto the Shadow Priest. Because DK is not really killable either. I could swap onto the Resto Shaman. I didn't realize it this time, but if you kill the low tentacle thing, you get out of the root. So, just a FYI, it's not as broken as you might think it is. I can't kill the Siphene right now because I am stuck in the fear, just trying to kill it as fast as I can. Now that I'm outed, back onto this guy, cancel my I-beam to kick the mind games, doing some really big damage on him. Got my essence something. I don't know what this ability is called. I should really just look it up right now, but I kind of just want to finish recording because I'm kind of on a flow. But while I'm ranting, my Warlock ends up dying to the Shadow Priest DK. Now this is the scariest comp for both teams. We got a meta comp right now with some good old DHDK versus another meta comp versus some S-play. Siphene is up. DK's got some weird weak auras things that just yells at me. I don't like it. I hope people don't start using this in the future, but we're getting absolutely shredded. Holy crap, they're doing so much damage. I'm just trying to counteract it with my own damage of my own, but not working out too well. We've kind of recovered now, doing some really big damage onto the priest, end up forcing the dispersion, so I swap onto the lock. He ends up using his wall, but I can't really go back to the priest yet because he still has dispersion, but now it's down. I meta onto him, start doing some really big damage, pumping him with my meta damage, get feared, and then he just dies. Now we're against these priests, DK, Holy Priest, kind of just, waiting for them because I thought the DK would run in himself because, that's kind of what he does. That's DK things. You run in, you do big damn. I get a demon proc right off the bat, which is really nice. Going for the full I-beam onto the healer, into the proc demon, end up forcing nothing. I try to line these mind games, end up getting it off. The DK just going wild and kills everyone. Unfortunate. This time against some S-Cleave with a Archam S-Cleave when we got DH Shadow Priest. If this comp is actually meta, DH Shadow Priest is one of my favorite DH comps ever. I hope it's really good. This is a really fun combo play. Going onto this healer right now because I decided that both these guys are just immortal. So the Archam is the best kill target. Doing some really big damage onto him, forces Ascendance and his wall. So I decided to incap on him on it and swap onto the DK with my Shadow Priest for a sec. Just kind of wait out the Archam cooldowns. Now that they're down, I will go for the full meta, trying to immune the Hex there. Kind of getting shredded, so I drop the Dark. And my DK also trusts the AMZ, but then we're completely fine, and I just instantly kill the Archam. Back against the S-play with the DHDK. Not really sure who to kill. Actually, we are sure who to kill. It's just the Archam, and when there's two immortal DPS, who else to go other than the healer? Doing some really big damage on him. Getting the demon procs really fast this game. It's kind of crazy. Going for my damage buff, go for the disengage hunt, and I just fuck it up and hit the wall, and then I just don't do any damage with it. He ends up walling it, but he still dies anyways. Very cool. So DH seems like it's going to be really good next season, so I definitely recommend playing it. They just are getting everything they want. They get the consistent slow, they have more CC, they have so many burst options, other ways to do damage. They can just do anything. From my games, I ended up ending at like 1902. I can't show you right now though because they literally just reset the rating as I was talking about this. I'm really annoyed by that, but you can go back to the end of the last game if you want to see for yourself. If you don't believe me for some reason, that's not like something to lie about. But yeah, DH, it's looking good. I recommend playing it, but actually don't play it because I don't want to give you the spec. That's it for me. Next video is going to be Warrior, and oh man, I do not like Warrior right now. Yeah, that's it. Peace.